What's up, gamers? We are live with an episode of the Shackcast tonight, and we're going to be talking about the end of Marvel's Avengers with our good friends Symyro and Cress here. Guys, why don't you introduce yourselves to everyone?
All right, I guess I'll go first. I am Symyro on YouTube. It's the Symyro. They didn't have my regular name available. I stream over on Twitch. I play Avengers with Aaron usually. Cress and I both do a tabletop campaign on Wednesdays. I do some solo stuff on Monday and usually Overwatch on Saturdays.
Right on. And Cress?
Yes, my name is Cress Costi, but everyone calls me Cress, and I hang out with Aaron and Sim on Thursdays playing Avengers or any other game we can think of, and I play SWTOR with Sim and other friends.
Awesome. Now, we will be taking questions in chat, so I mean, if you have anything you want to talk about relating to Avengers, or if you have any questions, direct it to any of us or all of us, and we'll be happy to answer. And just keep in mind, we may be discussing stuff, but we will see all your messages, and we'll get to as many of them as we can. All right. So where do you want to start, guys, with Marvel's Avengers?
I think probably the best place to start would be kind of the beginning, like where we came into the game. It had such promise, like great story to start. Yeah, there wasn't really a lot of end game content when the game first came out, but really it started so strong. And then for whatever reason, it just kind of seemed to not get the love and support that a game like this really needed to be successful long term.
100%. Like, you know, it had a pretty strong campaign, and then we felt like we were getting more as the operations, and then the Black Panther expansion came out, and I was like, all right, now we're getting the raid, we're getting cool stuff, and then it just kind of slowly tapered off, where it was like less and less content, less and less often.
Yeah, they kind of just seem to slowly kind of cut all kinds of support out. I mean, we were getting these little tiny like story updates that weren't really anything major. And then at one point they just completely cut that out entirely until we got Cloning Labs. And the way they did that was so weird, where they put the story introducing Bucky at the end of the thing when everyone already had him unlocked.
Exactly.
Yeah, it almost feels like the point it was like, I don't want to say too far gone, but they just gave up. Like they gave up too easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really seems like we thought, I know just from talking over it so many times, we thought that when the game was purchased and everything was purchased from, what was it, Crystal?
Yeah. No, from Square Enix. Yeah, they bought
from Square Enix. When it was bought from Square Enix, we thought like, okay, a new company's taken over. They just spent a lot of money to purchase this.
Yeah.
And then they release one story update and say, yeah, that's it, we're canon the rest of it, when they already had pretty much two characters that are at least halfway done leaked. And they're just like, yeah, no, nothing new coming, sorry, bye.
That might be the saddest part, is that we kind of knew that there was more to come.
Yeah, we'll never get to know what those characters were like. Because they could have introduced new kinds of characters, like we were talking about magic characters. They could have introduced that.
Yeah.
That's a whole different style of fighting. But now we'll never know really what could have been.
Very true. Welcome, everyone, and let us know if you have any questions. Yeah, so even the She-Hulk thing kind of got leaked early on, And we thought they might coordinate that with the release of the show, because like they had Hawkeye skins dropping with the Disney Plus show, and the Spider-Man costumes kind of came a little late for the movie and a lot of stuff.
But we did still get them.
Yeah, we did still get them, yeah.
And like we got Thor Love and Thunder. We got Jane, the mighty Thor, out with Thor Love and Thunder. And then just nothing. That was
the best coordination they might have ever done, was dropping Jane with that movie. And having the costume ready for that specific one. Yeah, I mean, and there's also a petition out right now where they're like trying to get people to either, you know, get them to make an Avengers 2, or like, oh, bring it back. And it's like, man, it's really hard to do that once they pulled the plug.
I've seen people do that. That's not going to happen.
Not very realistic. Now, maybe a sequel is realistic, but
sequel
hardly.
Might be realistic, where they build it from like the ground up with their own people, their own building blocks and everything. But I don't know. It just seems like they just did not want to continue this game, which is weird after you spent all that money buying the IP.
Yeah.
To just can it, 4 or 5 months later?
And it's an expensive franchise, too. There's a lot of characters. There's a lot of stuff with Marvel. This should be a multi-million-dollar selling game, and it really never got to that point, which is really strange because the Avengers are really popular. There's been multiple movies. We're all familiar with a lot of the characters, even down to Ant-Man. We're familiar with him. We're familiar with Iron Man, all this different stuff. And this game sort of came out, and it had the single-player campaign, and so this kind of conflicting that it has that, but then it sort of has the loot grind of like RPG looter shooter type stuff. So it seems like they were conflicted about what do you want this game to be? And then in terms of endgame, it's like, well, if you're trying to be Destiny or Division or Warframe or any of these other games, like you gotta have that content ready to go. You gotta have more missions, more characters, subclasses, different fighting styles, new skill trees, you know, different costumes to unlock and wear. And of course you get the microtransaction store, but at some point it was literally just the microtransaction store that was being updated on a weekly, monthly basis. And it was like, well, when are we going to get a new mission or like a new character? And then they cut off roadmaps, and that might be another big mistake when they cut that off. It was like, in terms of long-term support, Bungie was always really clear about what they do with Destiny, and they set you up with a clear picture of what the next few months or the next year of the game looks like. And when Avengers cut that, it's like, well, what do you do?
Yeah, it's very true, especially with Destiny too. Like I play it every odd occasion. I enjoy it since like when I think the Red War started, and then it went from there. I've been playing it ever since, and there's always something new. Like obviously, I don't have the end game capacity to even hit end game, but regardless of that, I mean, it's one of my favorite games, and I was hoping maybe like Avengers could kind of follow that suit, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, we were getting like, if they really did want this to kind of go along the lines of like a Destiny or Division, there needed to be much more content. They were dropping a mission here, a mission there, and that's like 2 months apart. You're dropping one mission each. Yeah. That's not enough for endgame. And when you cut the roadmap, that's when a lot of the community really ended up leaving.
See the way Destiny 2 does it. Yeah, the way Destiny 2 does is every season starts. So your season starts, you get your first story mission for that season, and then every week you get a new mission for that season up until I believe it's a 2 or 3 week buffer between that, and then the next season starts.
It makes sense, and it's a schedule they can work with, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It all kind of falls in line because eventually, once you get through midway season, then they come out with a new dungeon or a possible new raid. And then when the end of that comes, you either get the next season, or in this case, when the end of this season starts, Lightfall comes out. So
Major expansion, new area to explore, probably
brings
new
new powers,
raids.
new weapons. Absolutely.
Oh,
Exactly. You have to, with a game like this, that's kind of this live service where you're selling skins, you're doing this kind of loot grind for like a looter shooter. You need to have new content ready to go. If it's not expansion, it's new powers, it's new missions constantly, it's new cosmetics that you can earn just by playing. Instead, Avengers seem to go the way of, we're going to put out all these really cool new skins,
I mean,
but you got to pay for them.
yeah.
even if you have to battle pass it, which I'm totally fine with, because
Yeah.
Destiny 2 has the same thing. You earn XP. You as long as you purchase the in this case a season pass, you'll get these cosmetics. You'll get a weapon here or there. You'll get an armor piece. It's not that hard of a concept.
No, and I mean, if you look at another game recently that started bad with like a battle pass,
Yeah.
Overwatch 2's battle pass is crap right now. But if you've seen the stuff that Blizzard put out the last couple days, they're completely rehauling the way it works. Because they took that feedback from the community. They took the community's opinion. They're like, hey, this isn't working for us. Okay, let's look at why this doesn't work, and let's fix it to get people back into it.
Yeah, 'cause this was the first time they ever experimented with a battle pass, right?
Yeah, Overwatch had loot boxes in one.
So in this case, it was
there's been a lot of push to have them return to that, and it seems like so the way they're shifting everything is essentially it incentivizes you for completing it, even if you don't buy the battle pass. Marvel's Avengers could have done something very similar to that,
Yep.
where it incentivizes you to play through a battle pass, whatever, even if you don't buy it. The way they set up the like character battle passes, yeah, it was a good idea in theory.
Yeah.
But they locked the best stuff that you really needed behind purchasing each character's battle pass. And unless you were like me, just completing a battle pass, saving up everything, completing another one, saving up everything, and doing it that way, you kind of couldn't get everything unless you wanted to spend money.
Yeah. And you're dishing out like $10 a character at that point. Once you get past the core characters that came with the game.
Exactly.
Let's see. Kong has a question here. When online started, did you guys truly have faith in the game growing exponentially and lore?
I did.
Yeah.
I thought when they first gave us that online, yeah, it was a little sparse. The core missions, which sadly enough are still the only missions there.
Yeah.
But when those came out, I was like, okay, this is a good starting point. They're going to add new areas, they're going to add new missions, maybe continuation on the iconic mission chains.
Which we never saw, right?
We just never got that. The lore, because like we went through it all, and we had like the Thor iconic mission chain where we battle Loki as Thor. Like we see Loki there. We see like the Red Room, and it went into the event. We see a lot of these like iconic chains. Really good story. And then they never followed up on it.
Yeah, and same with the Ultron stuff that they had showed at the end of some of the missions, and they had teased the Kree invasion and potentially Captain Marvel coming to the game. That would be like the big conclusion of like season 1 or maybe even the first game if they wanted to like shut this down and open up a part 2 and pick up from there in a new engine or something. But yeah, I think this game had a lot of promise, and I think we've mentioned that quite a bit, is that the game has always had the possibility, like a long-running Avengers comic book, to be able to branch off and tell different series. You know, you got the Thanos saga, you got the Ultron saga, you got the Kree invasion stuff, and you could gradually introduce new Avengers and have people join and leave the core team and tell all these great stories. You know?
There's
flickering.
so many routes you can go. Yeah,
try to leave and rejoin or turn it off and back on, maybe. That's the thing. There we go. Perfect.
There's so many branches that you can go with this type of franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And
but it's like we get to cloning labs and then they're like, yeah, we're done with it. Like, no, you have so much more to put in.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I mean, realistically, you could have very easily done more stories kind of like when Hawkeye came in. You had like the bad future that you're trying to avoid with the Kree invasion and all that. It is based on a comic book. We've seen so many different, Marvel universes throughout the comic books, throughout TV shows, through the movies. You could have branched off so many different ways, told so many stories with this. And we, unfortunately, just didn't get it.
I think that's what would be the only strong point of going live service, is the fact that you can tell those stories over time and you don't have to wait 3 to 5 years for Avengers Part 2 like you do with the Spider-Man games. But they craft a really good narrative around one character, and they craft really good gameplay for that one character. Whereas Avengers, you got to sort of do that for the whole cast. Yeah. And they really do have great combat for the characters. The combat design.
Oh yeah, the characters feel like the comic book character that they're supposed to be modeled after.
Mm-hmm.
It's just we didn't get enough story. We didn't get any real long-term support.
Yeah. And I mean, they had people leave the team. They, all sorts of stuff there. And splitting the studio between Tomb Raider and the Initiative, helping the Initiative with the new Perfect Dark game. It's like, how much dedication do you have for this game? And since we don't have a roadmap, we don't really have a way to gauge the future of the game until they shut it down.
They kind of pull a game like this that you're trying to go live service. You can't sit there immediately after launching an expansion, because most of the team got pulled off like right after the War for Wakanda expansion.
Yeah.
You can't pull the entirety of the team to go work on something else when you're running a live service game.
It took them a whole year or more to make War for Wakanda, and that took everybody firing on all cylinders, So you can't.
In the middle of COVID, it took everyone gunning for it.
Yeah.
And then you move everyone out.
And then Spider-Man.
Leave like a skeleton crew to do everything else.
And that's why it felt like we were only getting new skins for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Because they left the art department and then like 2 people to work on a friggin' mission.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a joke. It's a joke.
And so the characters after Wakanda, which was like the grand story moment that we had been waiting to sort of play in the game, and then we get Spider-Man, and it's like we were theorizing like, oh, would a Spider-Man villain show up? Is he going to have like his own campaign? Is there going to be like a new raid for, whatever it might be? And then it just ends up being like a bunch of not even new missions. Yeah, they're like, take Spider-Man and go beat up aimbots, and you'll get short.
Yeah, they just kind of
audio
retconned him
tapes
into the story. Like, oh yeah, he was helping during all this, and now he's just part of the Avengers, but only if you have a PlayStation.
Only. And then kind of the same with the next hero, like with Jane. They had a little animated cutscene. She joins the team. you play, you beat up the same aimbots, do the same old missions. They give you little lore tapes. Then you get Bucky, same thing.
Same
He
thing.
just shows up on the helicarrier, and even the cutscenes were getting less and less cinematic. They were all just like GTA talking head cutscenes where they're just moving their hands and standing around and posing all heroically. And
Yeah, you could tell at that point it's like
they were giving up.
Yeah, we just don't have it anymore.
Because you went from like AAA single player game at the beginning to just, I don't even know what you would call what the last couple expansions were. Even though the characters played really well, and like we were saying here, Evil Eyes is saying that, you know, they kind of retooled and made sort of echo characters, and they've always been good at sort of distinguishing each character, even if they share abilities, like with Jane Foster and Thor, Kate Bishop and Hawkeye, like they're both archers, but yet they play completely different. But people wanted more variety. They wanted something different. They wanted Doctor Strange, Wanda, they want Captain Marvel.
I think that would have been an interesting concept, especially for a character like Doctor Strange with his magic.
Yeah.
You know, that would have been a very interesting concept and a very doable concept.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a completely different fighting style that really made the game feel fresh again. But at the end, like Evil Eye said, cutscenes were rough at the end. They had 5 people on a hamster running everything. You got the hamster running around the wheel trying to keep the servers going.
Yeah, and things that they had promised, like Join in Progress, which is kind of a basic co-op feature. We can talk about that a little bit, and how we struggled to get through the raid, and how to get through the OLT without somebody lagging out or some random quitting.
Yeah, you had like the OLT, you had, because I remember when the OLT came out, and I think this was before Crest really joined us for it. Me and you were sitting there trying to do it, and we just had Jackass number 1 leave, then Jackass number 2, and we're sitting there like, we spent half an hour to get nothing because they locked every single piece of gear behind beating the final boss.
Yeah.
And it's not possible with just 2 of us. Unless we want to go those broken builds.
Yeah.
But we couldn't even do those broken builds because we couldn't
didn't
get
have
the
the
gear.
gear. Yeah. That was the struggle. And if we left the raid or the OLT, all progress was lost. So that was the other issue. They didn't really have proper checkpoints. And so if someone got kicked, then we had to start it all over from the beginning.
Yeah, because I just remember the game crashing so much on us when we were doing the OLT when that first came out. I would crash, then we'd regroup, get back in it. You would crash, regroup, get back in it. One of the randoms would crash.
Yeah. And we were all on PS4 at the time until we got to PS5, and even then you'd still have issues.
Even then you'd still crash. I mean, look at it now. We're still struggling to group up.
Yeah, that's the other issue. And they're going to cut support in September, and, you know, you're not really going to be able to issue a ticket to the support team about your problems.
This is a game that years after it came out, you're still having the basic problems of grouping up.
Yeah.
Why does my webcam keep doing
you're flickering again? Yeah.
I don't understand why it keeps doing this, but
yeah, I haven't seen it do that.
That is basic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, before you even take the next step in bringing in a new character or introducing a new area or introducing a new expansion, fix your basics first. Like, fix your multiplayer first before you say, well, we'll save that for later date. Let's go for a war for Wakanda. No, you go back, you fix your multiplayer first so that you get that fleshed out. Then you move on slowly. But it's almost like what I've seen and what's described me. Everything was thrown in without a care in the world, and it just doesn't work like that.
Yeah, and I mean they still had
errors
bugs.
would just compound.
Yeah, from the enemies getting stuck in the floor, getting stuck in the walls, and we just kind of got used to it and just learned to work around stuff. I mean, we still have to reset checkpoints when we start the raid just to make sure that it's not going to like bug out.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the basic support like that would have been key. Crossplay would have probably saved this game in terms of like player count.
They added it in, and then we were never able to do it. Loadouts have been sat there in the menu since War for Wakanda.
Yeah.
Never got loadouts.
They never added it. The tab is there.
Tab is there, flashing at you like, click on me. Nothing happens.
Yeah.
A lot of these games would have loadouts, and that's really disappointing.
The best thing I can compare this to is what happened to Anthem. Both games launched to a lot of promise.
Mm-hmm.
They were fun when we were playing them.
Yeah.
But they just never got the support that they needed to continue on.
Yep. In every instance, it was just, you gave up right as you were hitting your middle ground. You had that big...
Yeah, you start to get things going, start to get it together, cut the cord.
Like when Anthem came out, I thought, this is my game.
Yeah.
I love machines. I love mechs. This is my deal.
Chris and I were playing that all the time with our friends.
Yeah.
Like we were doing a 4-man stack through Anthem, just having fun. And then there was no support to it.
And no end game.
When they added the end game, it was done very poorly, much like Avengers when they added the OLT, added the raid, and they were buggy messes when they came out.
Mm-hmm.
You were lucky if you were able to finish it.
But I will say it's nice to see, even after months after Anthem support went down the toilet, there are still people that play the game and still make videos on YouTube about it.
Yeah.
Like they have some type of minuscule hope, which I appreciate that. But I mean, it's
much like this. They're going to cut support, and there's going to be dedicated people. We'll play it from time to time, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
as far as we're concerned, it's just taking up space. It's just taking up space on my PS4 now.
Yeah.
And I can easily go and play something else, which is a very sad state of affairs. Yeah, when you say
in reality, Evil Eyes is right.
Yeah.
This game should have been pushed back at least another year.
Yep.
So that it launched with the full story. War for Wakanda was ready to go and could be rolled out slowly. Other stuff was ready to go, and you just roll out, like, you have the first 2-3 expansions just either ready or being worked on when the game releases. So that's like, okay, you've reached the end game here, the OLT. Here's War for Wakanda. Oh, you've reached the raid. Here's Cloning Labs. Oh, you've reached the end of Cloning Labs. Here's this. Here's that. Here's the Kree invasion. Here's Thanos. Here's Ultron. Here's...
Yeah, just take everything...
Conqueror.
Yeah, just take everything from the MCU. Well, maybe not everything from the MCU, but take Thanos, Ultron, Kang.
Because they're in the comics too.
Yeah.
You can
adapt.
This was very much based off like the comics storylines.
Yeah,
you can very easily have rolled that into it if you let this game sit in development for another year, full year with all those people working. You could have had probably 2 expansions ready to go, no bugs in the regular game with enemies getting stuck in the wall, being able to group up easily.
Yeah. I mean, I've talked to different friends of mine and at my workplace that play games too, and they agree with me. If a game has to sit in development hell for another year, that's fine. Let it build up. But I mean, and then there are other people that are like, well, we want it now. I'm like, okay, you want it now, fine. It's gonna be a buggy
Cyberpunk.
Yeah. Cyberpunk is
here's Cyberpunk
lesson.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, they announced, their first announcement was that Spider-Man would be a PlayStation exclusive, and we waited until 2021, until after War for Wakanda, to even get Spider-Man. So, I mean, that showed like a poor sense of planning out a lot of this content. It showed that a lot of stuff wasn't ready, and things would go back to the drawing board, and then, certain heroes or villains or whatever it might be would get scrapped or trashed or come back to, and we just pretty much fought Taskmaster and Abomination for the longest time until they started adding more. And then we were very confused why they never added Crossbones or MODOK until recently they did MODOK.
And even then, it took until the end of the game's life to give us MODOK in an OLT.
Heck of a conclusion.
We had Taskmaster, Abomination,
Maestro,
the Omega level threat, which is the friggin' super adaptoid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's iconic. No, the fuck it's not. You have the super adaptoid, you have Claw, good raid boss.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Solid choice for a first raid boss in the game.
Yeah.
But then after that, we had Monica 2 times. Again.
Yeah.
And then MODOK, and then it's like, yep, that's the end of the game.
You know who would have been a good raid boss to fight? That would be, you could compare it to Claw? Galactus.
There you go.
That could have been a late game addition.
Oh yeah, very late.
A huge thing, yeah. You could have a big build up.
You could have had the Kree invasion, and realistically, Ronan the Accuser could have been a raid boss.
I would have said
Doctor Strange coming in for an expansion. You could have had any number of Doctor Strange villains. Hell, we fought Giant Claw. Give us Dormammu.
Yeah. Throw something tough at us.
Yeah, give us like these bigger and bigger enemies until you reach guys like Thanos. You reach guys Kang, Galactus.
Kind of like the dungeons in Destiny where you face off against like different like really beefy enemies. Like I've only done one dungeon in Destiny 2 and it was a nightmare. So, but it gave you an idea of like, say, hey, this is what you're gonna do in Vault of Glass or Last Wish, something like that. It gave you an idea of like, this is what you're gonna deal with. So. And you could have done the same thing in Avengers.
Yeah. Could have built up to those big moments. CD, Crystal Dynamics, not communicating with the community and claiming to be all eyes and ears to the fans. Big slap in the face, says he.
Yeah, they claim they were listening to us when we're pitching out ideas. We're saying like, hey, this isn't working. And we just got ignored.
And then they even started hiring people with live service game experience, and that was several months ago now, I believe.
Oh, it's way too late.
It was.
You
need that in the infrastructure, man. You can't be throwing that in two years or more in.
Yeah, you needed that years ago. Not
you needed that at launch, not when you're just about to sell the game.
No, you're way past the point.
Or when you're just about to shut it down.
Yeah.
Like that is not going to work well.
If my knowledge corrects me or is correct, Avengers is available on PC, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Modders are gonna have a field day with that. They're gonna make sure that game lives on the PC.
Yeah, especially once they cut off all support, and I mean the servers are still going to be up. Modders are going to have a field day. We might end up with everything we just said here, like new characters, new everything, because the modders are going to sit there and like, we love this game. Now it's time to make it what it should have been.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Kong says, was there ever a moment before the slowdown that you guys felt like the game could be in trouble?
Yes. The moment that they cut off the roadmaps.
Yeah.
The moment they stopped doing roadmaps was kind of like, ooh, why are you not telling us what's coming in the future? Like, what is going on here that you're not giving us a heads up at, like, really what you're planning?
Yeah, is there a plan? Is there no plan? Should we be planning last rites for the game? I quit spending money on the game, that kind of
Like,
stuff.
here's why I think the PC version is probably going to last longer than the PS4, the PS5.
Yeah.
There was a game I played. I still play it to this day. Star Wars Empire War: Forces of Corruption. That was a game that came out in 2006. It hasn't been a relative thing since probably 2008. It is still being modded to this day. People are still building mods for it to keep the game alive. It's wild.
Well, and look at Bethesda games. Look at what they do.
Look at Bethesda. They're getting modded to hell and back. People are still putting out mods for Elder Scrolls 1, Fallout 1.
Because they want to keep those games, these relics of like 15 years ago alive. And it's the best way to do it. I mean, actually, now that I think about it, Forces of Corruption got an official update back in 2020, which is surreal.
From the official dev team? Like they came back to it?
I've heard rumors they're actually going to work on another Empire at War. They want to bring it back. So I don't know which. I'll have to look it up, but I'm not sure which company.
You look at a game like Borderlands. For years, they kind of ignored Borderlands 2. The modding community and everything had a field day with it. And they put out some really good mods. They put out a community patch that fixed all the characters.
I'm sorry, it was a 2022 update, an official update.
And then when they were getting ready for Borderlands 3, finally, Borderlands 2, they went back to it and put a whole new update, updated the graphics, updated this, that. Granted, it broke the community patch. But after years, they came back to it and updated it because the fans were still so invested in the story, so invested in the property that they rewarded the fans. Empire at War, like Chris said, they rewarded the fans with their loyalty. Maybe we get Avengers back in the future if that's a sequel built on a brand new engine that by their team from the ground up. That is a possibility. You're not spending all this money on an IP to cancel it after 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, the guys at Petroglyph, the guys who created Empire War, are actually very open to creating either Empire War 2 or something of the other. So, the modding communities out there really have it well.
When games get that kind of mod support, you get the people that really understand the game, understand the community, working on it. And then the game companies see like, hey, wait, people are still playing this or they're still playing that?
Yeah.
Why? Then they look into the mods and they say, oh, wow.
That's why.
People are there. They're making new content for this game that we could have made.
And you could have monetized that. You could have been like...
monetized that, so maybe it's time to revisit this.
You have to look at the independents.
Make more money.
Obviously, big companies can only go so far, and then
you can go a lot further than
at least
random dude on his computer.
The companies that give a damn, sure.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about Crystal Dynamics, who obviously don't give a damn. But if you go look at the independents, like these content creators, these modders, these are the people you need.
You need them on your side to have a successful game long term.
Because eventually their followers are going to follow them into whatever these big companies create.
Yeah, whatever game is next, they'll follow the leaders here. Because they're the ones giving the games exposure. That's why so many people were turned off of like Cyberpunk, because all the big streamers that were really looking forward to it got it, said this sucks, and moved on.
Yeah.
And people just now are like, wait, Cyberpunk's still a thing? Yes, they've done a lot of updates. There's a new update coming soon, and then there's DLC later this year. You had a team that should have had more time to put this game out, were rushed by the money people to get this out so that they could get paid. and it took them a solid year, 2 years to get the game into what it really should have been at launch and would have been if you gave them enough time to do it. Like, I understand it. You're promising shareholders this time. Sometimes things don't work. It's computer programming.
Yeah.
Stuff bugs out all the time. Even in basic programming, stuff gets really buggy. Half the time with streaming software, stuff just breaks for no reason.
It does. From experience.
So when you are putting out this massive title that is so looked forward to, you have an IP that is top tier, whether that be Avengers, Cyberpunk, any of the sports franchises, you have an expectation of what it needs to be. And if you're sitting there like, oh, money comes first, you're going to deliver down here when everyone's expectations are up here.
Very true. And Marvel's a big franchise. It's up there with, Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and all these major franchises. This should have been a huge cash cow for whoever made the game.
Marvel is one of probably the 3 biggest franchises in movie TV history. You got Star Wars, Avatar, and Marvel.
Marvel, yeah.
Like, those are the 3 biggest box office grabbers in history.
Yeah.
Those are... You get people signing up for Disney Plus for more Star Wars shows and Marvel shows. You have these billion-dollar franchises, and this is what you did with the game?
Yeah.
This is what you did with their IP?
It's going to be a lot harder on the next group that tries to do this, right? Like, whoever the next studio is.
This is damaging to Marvel's brand.
Yeah.
And Disney does not fuck around with their brands. If you damage the brand, Disney will not trust you in the future.
Might not give you a second shot.
Why do you think EA did not get the renewal on an exclusivity license for Star Wars?
Yeah.
Because they put out crap for years, and Disney's like, let's make this open to everyone and see the quality of the game. And as soon as they announce that they're not renewing that, we get Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah.
The best game that EA put out while they had the license.
Yep.
Yikes.
100%.
Finally threw something good out there. And so now we have several Marvel projects in the works, right? We have a lot to look forward to.
We have Wolverine coming out. We got Spider-Man 2.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, both of those are, I believe, Insomniac.
Yeah, they are.
I know Spider-Man is, but I wasn't sure on Wolverine.
And we have Skydance Studio doing the Captain America and Black Panther game, which is Amy Hennig, the maker of Uncharted. Like, she's a big deal. She's got her own studio there. We've got the Iron Man game that's coming from EA. There was a rumored Black Panther game also coming from there too.
I have a feeling that the Iron Man game from EA is essentially going to be built on a less buggy version of Anthem.
We said that would be a good blueprint for Iron Man when we were playing Anthem.
Anthem would be a great blueprint for Iron Man, at least in terms of like the flying and the air combat. Like, that would be a perfect blueprint for it. Even if we don't get anything more from Anthem, which I doubt we will at this point.
Yeah.
You can still use what was good about that game to improve your other stuff.
Absolutely. And we have Midnight Suns as well, which is a card game, Marvel game that came out.
I have watched some of that. It's not my thing.
Yeah.
But I sure as hell see why people are enjoying it. More power to them. Like, that is a good Marvel game. It's not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
But it is a good, solid Marvel game. That is boosting the brand.
I tried to play it, and my PC can't handle it.
Yeah,
Oh,
his
no.
computer can't handle it.
Oh
It
no.
started up and it just stuttered to hell. Like, what?
Oh.
Yeah, I need a more advanced setup. I'm on a gaming
Yeah.
laptop, so I can play majority stuff. But
When we even had Ultimate Alliance 3 a couple of years ago on the Switch. So, I mean,
Yeah.
even that's
We've
still
had-
kind of kicking around.
We've
love.
had Marvel vs. Capcom. We've had.
Yeah.
There have been a whole slew of Marvel games that have done things well. I'm not quite sure why, we got such a subpar effort here.
There
Right.
was no effort. There was no effort at all. There was not even an attempt.
There was effort, a little bit.
Yeah.
But we
I think
got subpar effort. Because War for Wakanda was very good. I really enjoyed the story. Granted, it was a quick story.
Mm-hmm.
But I really enjoyed the story there.
Yeah.
If they kept making expansions like that, this game would have gone for a while.
More stories. Kong has a few questions here. I'll read them out. Do you feel like CD, Crystal Dynamics, was held back and couldn't do certain things because of the grip from Marvel? In any press conference, I never heard anything from Crystal Dynamics or Marvel saying that they were giving full reins on the Avengers game.
I don't know. I know Marvel and Disney are very protective of their brand.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Crystal Dynamics wasn't given the full run of the table. But at the end of the day, if you bring... Because this game got pitched and greenlit by Marvel.
Right.
If you're coming with a good, solid idea, I can't see them saying no to it.
Yeah, I can't either.
Yeah. And all the
So
little
if
teases that they put out had to have been
So,
okayed
yeah.
by somebody, you know?
Yeah, so if you're sitting there saying, like, if Crystal Dynamics is sitting there saying, oh, we never really got a chance because Marvel shut everything down, what kind of ideas were you coming with?
Yeah.
Like, what were you bringing to the table here that they were shutting it down so quickly?
Must have been some real head scratchers at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Because Marvel has an interest in a game like this going for as long as possible. Because the more people buy the game, the more people play, the more people buy in their store, the more money Marvel makes. Because they're putting out Marvel Cinematic Universe skins. They're putting out stuff that requires the okay from the comic writers or someone at Marvel. So they're getting paid regardless. They have a vested interest in this going as long as possible.
Very true. Ultimate Alliance? Yeah. What you got?
You're not wrong. Insomniac has a long history of greatness.
Yeah.
But they had that early success in like the 90s with like Spyro the Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
The first Spyro trilogy, where they just knocked it out of the park. That is probably still my favorite game franchise of all time, was the original trilogy there.
That was a legendary
trilogy.
Best platformer, yeah.
They kind of fell off into obscurity for a little bit before they came back with Uncharted. Wait, was that...
Oh,
was
no,
that
wait.
Insomniac?
No.
No.
They came back... I know they did Sunset Overdrive. Did they do something before that, though?
I don't know. Like, what did they do after Spyro that kept them... Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah.
That was a big one. And then Fuse, terrible. Sunset Overdrive was not reviewed well. Spider-Man.
Resistance.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the Resistance ones were pretty dope, but I mean, it wasn't big enough to be a mainstay. You know, they dropped 3 games and...
Edge of Nowhere. Disruptor. Yeah, it's a lot of obscure games besides Ratchet and Clank, Resist the
Yeah,
Resist.
so for years they sat there in kind of obscurity after Sparrow. I mean, yeah, we had the Resistance, which were never really top tier. You had a couple real big kind of flops for how much money was poured into them.
Mm-hmm.
Then they came back with like the Ratchet and Clank remake, which did okay. And then Spider-Man was what launched them back, like, right to the top of gaming. So even at the time when they got Marvel Spider-Man, they hadn't put out a quality game in years.
Yeah. And now they're kind of given the keys to the Marvel Kingdom, and they chose, Spider-Man sequels, they chose Miles Morales, and now they're doing Wolverine, and who knows where they go from there.
So going off of what Kong said, Spider-Man worked. Old Marvel games didn't have the long arm of the law from Marvel and Disney. Yeah, actually, they kind of did. Because Marvel was acquired by Disney in, I think, like the early 2010s.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking... 2009, they were bought by Disney.
Not long after Iron Man, yeah.
Disney has had a say in every single game since 2009.
Well, and they definitely took more risks back then. They had movie games, they had Ultimate Alliance, they had X-Men Legends. It felt like we were getting a full suite of different genres of games, from beat 'em ups to 2D fighter arcade stuff to dungeon crawlers, all that stuff.
So yeah, even before they were bought by Disney, they still had to run everything by Marvel.
Marvel still cares about how their brand looks, like regardless of who
Exactly.
owns them, Yeah, Marvel versus Capcom,
Marvel versus
right?
Capcom, that still had to get through Marvel. Incredible Hulk games, Ultimate Alliance, they still had to get through Marvel, even if it wasn't Disney at the helm.
Yeah. There's still a lot of red tape.
The same people that were running Marvel after it got bought by Disney were the same ones that were running it before. Disney, when they bought them, kept the hierarchy intact because they knew those people knew how to run these.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're not wrong, Kong. I'm not, shooting down all your points. Back in the day, they took a lot more risks with everything. Now I kind of feel like that's just gaming in general. No one really tries anything new anymore.
Yeah, they go with the flow.
Well, because the new games for the most part don't get critical acclaim. They're not supported the way that the cookie cutter Souls-like fighters are. Like, you look at Stray, that was the only one in recent history that I can think of that had a different formula that really sold well, critically acclaimed, was up for several awards at the Game Awards.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seems like everyone wants to go for what's popular, and we're getting battle royales out the wazoo, we're getting shooters, all that kind of stuff, because it seems like that's what the corporate oversight thinks that everybody wants.
Yeah, and that might be why that this ended up being a live service game, because it had the DNA of kind of a single player campaign with co-op features and whatnot, and then all of a sudden the gear stuff comes in, and then you get the raid, you get the end game stuff like that. And some people were turned off by that completely and just decided, oh, this isn't my game if it's going to play like that. But yeah, the issue is like they did complain. I know Crystal Dynamics had a couple, tweets and video calls or whatever where they would say like, "Oh yeah, everything has to be vigorously approved by Marvel." And so it was like before you could come out with a DLC or a patch, before you could change the costume a character's wearing or whatever story beats you're going to go, they have to make sure it doesn't conflict with the MCU because that's the money maker. You can't be making skins for Black Widow that show too much skin in areas that are not allowed. That this is their brand. And if you're not designing the character where it's using the iconic colors, it's recognizable, whatever the tick boxes are that they have over there at Marvel. And you already have to take, when you have a new DLC, it's got to be approved by Microsoft, it's got to be approved by Sony. They have to look at every piece of content and make sure it fits their terms and stuff. So you got to get through their red tape. You got to get through Marvel's red tape. And, of course, you got to do all the hard work yourself at your studio. And maybe there's even red tape coming from the publisher. Which I'll also say Square Enix was a terrible publisher.
Square Enix was god-awful for this. They cared about nothing other than the stuff coming out of their Japanese studios.
Mm-hmm. They were marketing Final Fantasy VII that year instead of Avengers, and as soon as they were done with the Final Fantasy VII Remake marketing run, they did a TV spot
14.
for Avengers. Yeah.
They did a TV spot for Avengers for like 2 weeks, and then it was right on to, oh, check out this expansion coming to Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah, it's like you can't market more than one game at the same time. Is that what it is?
They just did not seem to want to.
You're a multi-million-dollar company.
They can't multitask, apparently.
Yeah, Sega had a run with Marvel games with the movie titles. I remember that too. I mean, yeah, they definitely licensed their property out to more studios, and maybe they should do that again. I don't think that they should put it solely on Insomniac just because they make dope games. Like, I think there should be more studios. You see Midnight Suns doing something completely different over there. You see Ultimate Alliance doing something completely different from what everyone else does. I would love to see more of that. I'd love to see Midnight Suns 2, Ultimate Alliance 4, whatever a new Avengers game looks like, whether it's a beat 'em up or an online co-op game. But I don't think we're going to ever get a game that's quite like this one, where we may not ever get a live service one. We'll see how Suicide Squad does. I mean, if they're able to like reinvent the wheel with whatever's going on there, whether it's live service or co-op or whatever.
Yeah, if Suicide Squad does well, I can very easily see whoever they task with it, whether that be current companies or someone new, just kind of taking that idea, however they do that, and really running with that, creating something new that, isn't like what we currently have. Yeah, 2K and Firaxis are the ones that did Midnight Suns. We're starting to see, with other companies getting their run at Star Wars games, apparently Ubisoft is coming out with like a massive world, open-ended RPG for Star Wars, which if that lives up to what they're saying, like that could be one of the greatest Star Wars games of all time. We're getting remakes of KOTOR that they finally put with an actual company that knows how to make games and not port them.
Yeah.
If that's the case with the open world concept, that could be the next Star Wars Galaxies.
Yeah.
And Galaxies was a big game.
So, from what I've heard, is like that's Star Wars game that Ubisoft is making is like complete open world RPG. You're going to have like the smoothness of like taking off and going to different systems that like
Star Wars Galaxies. That's exactly
it's the same.
I'm drawing a blank on the name. It was one of those space games recently that took years to get right again. Like when it launched, it flopped, and then why am I drawing a blank?
Not sure.
Not
No Man's Sky.
No Man's Sky.
Oh, No Man's Sky, yeah,
It's
for sure.
supposed to have that smoothness of taking off and going to a different system that No Man's Sky has. And it's supposed to be like almost like a 3D kind of RPG the way Knights of the Old Republic was. Where you could really just kind of explore the planets you get on, their overarching story. Oh yeah, V4, I definitely know Firaxis did Civilization.
Yeah.
I have almost 1,000 hours in Civ 6.
Holy crap. And they did XCOM as well, yeah.
Yeah, they do XCOM. They
do a lot.
The combat kind of reminds of Midnight Suns, kind of reminds me of XCOM.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, once Star Wars freed themselves of one publisher and one type of game, things started getting better. Marvel needs to do the same. We're already seeing it a little bit with Midnight Suns, which is different than anything that's come out.
Yeah.
But Marvel really needs to branch out and say, hey, you can make this kind of game. You can make this kind of game. You can make this kind of game. We can't have the same stuff over and over and over because then it gets stale. You can't put this all on Insomniac to be the savior of Marvel games.
Like Thor back in the day?
Yeah.
That?
Where they put...
Oh my god.
EA put everything on Star Wars The Old Republic to be the be-all, end-all with the friggin' MMO.
Aaron, you have no idea.
And then...
no idea, my man.
We got 3 guys... I used this earlier talking about Avengers, and this is how it was for years. Cress, me, and a couple of my other friends that play it can tell you. It was 3 guys and the hamster that kept the servers going. There was no new content coming out. There was nothing. And then they've kind of reinvested in it, and the game started coming back because they've reinvested in new content, new ways to gear up, that kind of stuff.
Fast forward from an estimate like maybe a few years ago, they have a season pass now. Well, not a season pass, but a season.
They have galactic seasons, essentially.
Where you level up, you do certain objectives for that season each week, and you get free stuff.
You don't
Keeps you
have
engaged,
to buy it.
right?
Not
you don't have to. No, you don't have to buy the seasons. Like,
no, you
don't have to buy a battle pass.
I think you have to be. And actually, you don't have to be a subscriber to get. Obviously, if you're a subscriber to the game, you get more of the premium stuff. Sure,
perks. Yeah.
But even if you're just free to play, you still get
get a lot of stuff out of it.
Yeah, it's not that hard to create a system where you get free stuff for just playing the game.
Yeah, we've seen it in so many games where they have systems that reward you for playing, and Avengers just never really seem to get that. Other than one where you buy the character card.
They really needed someone that was more experienced with live service. Like, consult someone at Bungie or get some talent that's akin to...
Hire someone away from Bungie. Like,
Destiny,
that's been
Warframe.
part of running the game.
Yeah, because people leave Bungie. They go to work at other studios. I mean, you can get talent like that, but it's much too late when you're doing it like 2 years in. And yeah, so we had Gotham Knights come out recently too, and I would say that, it didn't launch to a bunch of success. I think it's an okay game. But yeah, it didn't succeed either, really. I mean, it's a co-op superhero fighting game, somewhat similar to Avengers. It's a little more, more of a story game, and it's all takes place in one city, which is to its benefit, I would say. And it's got all the great bosses. It's got plenty of content for now. Yeah. And so if that kind of leads to more games that are better, then that's cool. And if Suicide Squad ends up being really good and leads to more games, then maybe better teams, whether that's Crystal or other studios, will be given a chance with Avengers, or we're gonna get a new Guardians of the Galaxy probably after the first one. It kind of had sort of a cult success later on. At first, it launched, and people were like, "Wait, is that the Avengers developer? I don't want this." But people don't really connect that. Yeah.
Once people saw others playing it, and that's the beauty of kind of what we do with streaming, is people see these games and it's like, oh, that looks actually like fun.
Yeah.
I want to go ahead and give that a try myself. And it's one of those where I've mentioned what I do online to my parents, and they're like, "Why would people want to watch others play a game?" Well, to get
play it yourself
before they buy it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the best way of someone say try before you buy. Just watch someone else play it.
Watch someone else play it. You get an idea.
Way
of the
better
combat,
than a
you
review.
Get an idea of the story.
Yeah.
It's better than just reading a bland review from people that are paid to make a game look good.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I tell you, if I had the tech and the time to do it, I would live stream myself.
There you go.
I just don't have the internet to do it, nor do I have the time.
There you go. It takes both. A lot of those things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what do we think's next after this? In terms of Marvel games and stuff like that. What are our future projections now that this game has reached its end cycle?
What I think is next is obviously going to be Spider-Man. That will sell extremely well. We know this much. I think Wolverine will probably end up being good. Obviously, same studio that's working on Spider-Man. They know what they're doing with Marvel, although it'll be a different style of combat.
Right.
But I don't think we're going to see another game like Avengers for a while. They're going to kind of look at the live service and everything and just say, that didn't go too well for us the last time, so let's hold off on that for a bit.
I think it would be really cool if they just did individual characters and built their own MCU. Essentially.
Yeah, if you did
solo films.
Individual games, kind of like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But just like an individual game, for every one of the Avengers that was in this, you get a Miss Marvel game, you get a Black Panther, you get Captain America, Iron Man, and then you bring them together in an Avengers game, which is they're grouping up, whether or not you want to make that story, live service, multiplayer, whatever. You have them group up to fight an enemy they wouldn't be able to face on their own. You have it like a Thanos, you have Kang, you have a Galactus, where it really comes down to all these characters that you've played their solo games, had a lot of fun doing it, come together, and you get to kind of swap between characters, whether or not you do that co-op or solo. That's up to the studio, but if you follow the formula that worked for the MCU and you're putting out quality games, solid quality story games, people are going to come flooding back to Marvel games in a second.
Yeah, and people are really starting to enjoy kind of some of these linear, single-player, heavy narrative type games. God of War, right?
To that.
Yeah, we're going back to that type of stuff.
Because that was all gaming was in the 90s and early 2000s. There wasn't much multiplayer. I mean, you had Quake, you had Halo, you had Smash Bros. But there was only a few of those games that was really taking that were front and center, that were multiplayer. A lot of the best games, PS1, PS2, were those story games that really got you invested in it.
Yep.
GTA has been huge for years. And it wasn't until GTA 4 that we got any kind of online for a Grand Theft Auto game.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had a little bit of like co-op that you could do in San Andreas and some of those. But I feel like everything's kind of like cyclical with games.
Yeah.
We're getting back to the story games. You know, your God of Wars, your Stray, your Spider-Man. Like these games that you're playing by yourself and just in the story.
Yeah. And that's the best way to do is everyone loves a good story.
Yeah, we're getting back to just good, solid stories in games, and honestly, we needed that.
Really good gameplay too for a lot of them.
Really good gameplay, good stories. Yeah, graphics. Everyone's like, graphics are great, graphics are good, but honestly, if the story is not compelling, I don't care how good your graphics are.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no.
And if it doesn't launch a buggy mess, or it's not incomplete, or you're not selling us a monetized mess of a game.
And I really hate what gaming has become at this point, because how many games are launching half finished and then they patch it over the next year to be a working game?
Yeah, look at Halo Infinite. We're a year more in, and they just put co-op and Forge, which are things that usually launch with the game.
Yeah, look at Halo Infinite. Look at Cyberpunk. There's a million different games that launched half finished.
Yeah.
Like, we need to get these money people that are like, get this out as soon as possible so we can get the sales. We need to get them out of gaming, because all they're doing is fucking everything up.
That will fix it in post type attitude just does not work.
We'll fix it in post. We'll crunch to get it released on time.
That's even worse, yeah.
Because you're sitting there with people that you're having work 18-hour days, and you're expecting them to put out good work when they've been working for 18 hours?
They haven't slept. They haven't seen their families. Yeah.
Where can I get some? This guy's half asleep, hasn't slept in 3 weeks, and you're expecting him to do good work.
That's hard.
And for the Iceman, you don't know how the money goes well on COD? It's the title. It is the title.
Brand is
It's the same thing that
huge.
we had years back in Assassin's Creed, after Assassin's Creed 4, before we got Origins. They put out a new game every year, and it's a buggy mess, but people buy it because of the name attached to it.
You trust it.
You trust it. You're like, I've been playing this for years. I want to, keep playing it. Then you get into it, and it's just like, where's the game? Like, what is this? It's a buggy mess.
There's a lot of dissatisfaction.
And now we're paying $70 for games. You can't be releasing them half done.
That's why I'm really interested to see the future of some of these next couple of games that are coming out. How are they going to launch? How complete are they going to be? Stuff like that.
Because as like controversial as you may think it is, Hogwarts Legacy, we'll see how that launches, because they said, like, they're promising a lot in these trailers. They're promising a lot with graphics, like open world, all that. If that launches well, like in good shape, and it's not a buggy mess, there is hope. If they launch it half finished and it's full of bugs, like terrible, then we as gamers might need to boycott some of these AAA games for a while. Teach them that it's not okay to release a half-finished game because there have been too many games over the last several years.
Yeah.
I keep saying it. Avengers, Cyberpunk, they were terrible at launch in terms of Avengers with the multiplayer. It was terrible. The story was great, but
playability was rough. Performance was even rough. Yeah.
Cyberpunk, performance was terrible. Story, they haven't changed the story.
Yeah.
But when you release a game that is not playable at launch, that is not okay.
Very true. Yeah, and there's 3 studios that rotate on Call of Duty. Ubisoft is a multi-million-dollar, studio and publisher that works on
multi-billion at this point.
Creed. Yeah, exactly. I mean, they got massive.
But the problem was, and they're starting to get. Seems like they're starting to get back to that a little bit. Assassin's Creed was releasing every year, and it was the same studio that was on that. Mm-hmm. So those guys are burnt out.
Yeah, I don't blame them.
We had Origins, great game. We had Odyssey, even better. Mm-hmm. I spent over 1,000 hours in Odyssey. Valhalla, no new game plus, no reason to ever replay it.
Weird.
They cut the world down in size. They cut a lot of the side stuff that you could do just for fun. And they said, oh, here, this is what you want. No, it isn't.
Like they didn't listen to the fans at all on that one.
No. And game companies are not listening to the fans anymore. They are just what makes us the most money. Let's go with that.
And that's the other issue. We were seeing games like Rumbleverse and some of these other free-to-play games just immediately getting shut down after 1 year out in the wild running. Really hard to keep these games alive. So it was like a 3D fighting battle royale type game.
Yeah, I see. I saw earlier today. It was like that. It was like a 6v6 like dodgeball where you're like jumping across buildings and everything.
Oh, it's Knockout City.
Shutting down. Yeah, that's shutting down.
So like what? It's like the game was only good enough for us to play for 1 year. What happened to lasting experiences that we can enjoy for many years to come?
Yeah, no. Especially
everything's
right
temporary.
Now, no game company that has any kind of online is listening to its community.
No, absolutely not.
They won't listen to the community because they're listening to what gets me the most money.
Yeah. And we're the investors. They should be listening to us. We're the people playing. We're the people spending money.
We need to stop as gamers supporting these companies that are doing this. If they're going to put out a crap product, we don't buy it.
Yeah. There you go. That's the issue. Well, do we have any other thoughts about Avengers?
I mean, I can just give my final thoughts on what So, I really did love this game. I had a lot of fun, playing it. I had a lot of hope in this game. And at the end of the day, that faith, that hope was not returned. They didn't do kind of what they promised. They didn't help expand the universe to make us more invested in it. They came in, it seems like they came in, they got their money and said, we're out.
Any thoughts, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. When Simon initially invited me to play Avengers, I was like, maybe it's when he said you play as Iron Man. That really sold me. I'm a big Iron Man, and now yeah, there's so much more that could have been done, and it's just a big disappointment now. You know, it's an unfortunate series of events that could have been easily avoided if people cared.
Mm-hmm. They had the skeletal system of something that could be good, and so we put a lot of faith in that. We looked at how well each hero played and stuff like that, and we were excited about what they could add in terms of story and stuff. But it starts to taper off, or they don't fix basic things early on, and pretty soon that's what we're looking at. For me, it's always been a game I enjoyed ever since I saw the E3 trailer drop. I was like, holy crap, we're getting an Avengers game. Like, this looks really fun. And once we saw combat and heard it was the God of War combat director that was working on the game until about, I think he left after War for Wakanda. And so, I mean, that's why all the characters like played really well, and they had really smart skill trees and really good design in that sense. But in other areas, the game sort of lacked and slacked a little bit. And so I think it's a game we still like to play every now and then and revisit. But yeah, it's a shame that it's not going to get continued support, and might not get a sequel. We might not get a game that plays quite like this one.
Yeah, we'll definitely be revisiting this, playing time to time. We'll have to sit down at some point and figure out what to do on Thursdays moving forward.
Yeah, I think we should find some other games that we can jump into and still keep that passion alive that we had with Avengers, which was like, oh, I'm so excited to get on this and play, and we look forward to it every week.
Because honestly, I know one thing that I would bring up is I know we started it. We never actually ended up finishing it, Aaron, was Borderlands 2.
Yeah, I'm game.
I have it on PC. We could jump.
I would be perfectly fine to do a full playthrough with you guys on like Thursday. We just get on, we play, do whatever, have
much
some fun.
as we can get. Yeah,
that's a game. For I don't know how old is Borderlands 2.
Over 10 years at this
10 plus, yeah.
I think it was 2012 when that came out.
Yeah. Ooh.
10 years and up as a classic, at least in my opinion. So
shit, that's right. I was in my second year of college that came out. Because I remember when that came out, because that was when Cress and I were a big part of like a guild that was raiding every week. And I just shot him all a text like, yeah, I'm not going to be on today. I'm playing Borderlands 2.
Ooh. Yeah, you chose
Borderlands 2 launched today.
No, that was a big deal. A lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely my approval for Borderlands 2.
But yeah, I'd be down to do that. I'll look into if they've fixed the community patch. Because that made all of the characters really, viable. Because I know there's a couple that were like really terrible.
Oh.
Yeah. They just were not balanced well, and the community patch fixed that. So I will look into that, and that doesn't have to be something immediate. We can still play Avengers for a while till we can get Cress through cloning labs at least once.
I think that would be really cool. Yeah, give them a real good taste of endgame stuff, and our characters leveled up and get some cool gear. There's still stuff I'm looking forward to, for sure. Yeah, so Borderlands 3.
I have both Borderlands 3 and Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. I enjoy both of them.
Mm-hmm.
3 was not as good as 2, in my opinion.
I'd love to finish 2, and if you guys are down to play any others, then, we can decide that.
I have them on, so that's the benefit of 3 and Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Those are 100% cross-platform.
Yep.
Ooh.
You can play with anybody.
Nice. That's a good move for them.
I am... So to answer you, Iceman, I'm not a fan of survival horror. I have played on stream. I played Resident Evil 7. I tried to play Dead Space back in the day. Oof. It was just not my thing.
Yeah.
depends on survival because I played Amnesia: The Dark Descent, and
Okay.
yeah, that was
That one's, yeah.
that one's a trip.
Sure if Dying Light has crossplay.
Yeah, I don't know if Dying Light had crossplay or has it. Sorry.
And a lot of
That
future
was not a
games
game
will
I
be
was
getting
ever
that.
really
Yeah.
interested in playing personally.
Right. Well, if
But yeah,
anyone
I know
has any
we're
questions, let us know. But we'll start wrapping up here shortly. So yeah,
Yep,
if you have
final
any other
questions.
questions relating to Avengers or anything
Just
else,
in general, feel free to ask us.
yeah, because this is a good chance that we've had to sort of sit here and chat with everybody and chat with each other about all this stuff.
Yeah, because normally we're playing a game. This is the first time we've actually gotten to sit down, the three of us. For 99% of you, this is the first time seeing Cress's face. This is probably the first time seeing my face. So, if you have any questions for any of us, whether it be Avengers related or otherwise, feel free.
And I have Sim's links in the description down below, so you can check out his channel. Have that there.
Yeah, another game that released buggy mess that I still love has been Pokemon. Like the new Pokemon game released buggy as hell.
Yeah.
And it really shouldn't have.
Absolutely. I mean, that's
Assassin's Creed
another
Origin,
massive franchise, yeah.
Kong, why I liked Assassin's Creed Origins is because it kind of reminded me of what made me fall in love with the Assassin's Creed franchise in the first place. It was very much this kind of open world exploration. You do your missions, yeah, but there was a lot of side stuff that really got you involved. Yes, the combat was different from the originals. I feel like it kind of needed to evolve.
Yeah. I agree.
And that's why I loved Origins and Odyssey. Like they really changed what Assassin's Creed was, and I really enjoyed it. And trust me, I've played just about every single Assassin's Creed game. The only ones I didn't play were the ones that when they released 2 games in 1 year, and both of them were so buggy they were unplayable. I didn't play those. Those were the only ones I haven't done. But that's the thing, Gong. It wasn't something different. It wasn't something else.
Yeah.
This is Origins was how the Assassins came to be, and Odyssey was essentially the lead up to that. It gave you a lot more of the backstory on where these pieces of Eden came from, like what that society was like. Whether or not the leaked roadmap was true or false, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one.
I mean, they've been pretty bad with stopping leaks, so
Yeah.
it could be, but at the same time, it could be someone's wishful thinking.
Yeah, and even if it is true, like they can't do anything with it. They've shut down production. Unless they see some radical change, but I mean, it would have to be insane. It would have to be like millions of copies of Marvel's Avengers was sold, and now everyone's playing it all the time. Like, you know,
Yeah.
it would take a huge thing to turn this around.
Anymore.
Yeah, you can't
Yeah, it
really
would
just
take
do
a
a
huge
petition
thing
and
to-
get 1,000 signatures, and then they're like,
No.
all right, we'll keep going. We'll waste millions for just 1,000 little people.
Yeah, it would take millions of people coming back to this game, and realistically, I don't think that's going to happen.
It's hard. You need a whole reboot or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be.
Oh, and Evil Eyes, to answer your question that I saw up there earlier, Fire Red is not on the Switch, but there are emulators that you can do on PC.
There you go. Yeah. Definitely came out of nowhere, for sure.
Yeah, this was just kind of out of nowhere, because it seemed like everything was starting to go well. Like, you had people coming back for cloning labs and everything, and then you launched cloning labs and the gear that you got could crash your game.
Yeah, that is a huge bug.
And it took them, 2 months to fix that?
Mm-hmm. And we were hyped because that's like our next big end game. We were thinking, oh, this game's coming back to life again, because all we had was the OLT and the raid for the longest time.
Then we got a new one, and it's like, oh yeah, we can get this gear up, we can be good, and then it was just, nope, you can't even use the gear.
Yeah, we get that gear, it's just going to be useless. Right? Absolutely, I think it might be too good to be true. But we'll just have to be hopeful for the future, for sure.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're starting to get to that where every game coming out is just... You have a few rare good ones, but the majority coming out, unless it's an indie studio with the people that really care about what they're doing, it's just crap.
Absolutely. I guess look for passionate projects, passionate developers. Look through the footage.
Yeah, keep an eye out. Twitter, Instagram, Steam, everything. Just look at these developers. Look at how the people working on the game speak about what they're doing. If they are passionate about what they're doing, you're likely going to end up with a at least decent product. If they're just sitting there like, yeah, I'm here for my paycheck, like the game I worked on is coming out next week, woo, might want to avoid that project.
Like we said earlier, look for content creators that might be streaming said games to sort of get a feel about, oh, does it play like a game that you might like?
Yeah, keep it. And I'm not saying this to get more people to turn out to my stream or Aaron's stream, whatever. Keep an eye out for the games that you are interested in. If it's a game you don't have yet, and you're like, I'm interested in this, let me, see what this is about. Find content creators that are playing it. Get a good view on what the game is about.
Mm-hmm.
That is the current generation's way of reviewing. That is our generation's way of reviewing. We will play it so that you might not have to if it's a bad game.
Yeah. Make up your own mind and
yeah, just watch it, give it a look. I may not like it if I'm playing a certain game. I may not like the game, but you may really like the combat style. You may like the story. That is perfectly fine. Everyone's got their own tastes, own opinions.
I think we've turned several people onto Avengers over the past couple of years, that saw the game, saw us playing. Yeah, one guy in particular, right? Like, and so many friends recently were starting to pick it up, actually, when it went on sale. And I was telling him, I was like, yeah, let's team up, let's do it. And, it's sad to see them pull support.
Now they're pulling support. I will always, remember this game.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun with it. It's a shame that they've pulled support that they're not going to continue. It's always going to be kind of like Anthem for me. Yeah. What could have been.
I agree.
There we go. They also have the traversal update, which they already dropped part of it for Hulk, right? And they're going to have traversal stuff for other characters.
I did see that, and Hulk's movement is so much better.
Mm-hmm. It's a shame that that's coming so late, though. Like, that would have been really great the first few months when people were complaining about traversal, if they had addressed it then. instead of literally after you're closing the game.
Yeah, they brought it out. Like, they're bringing out these traversal updates as the last update you're doing. Like, come
It's good to at
on.
least leave the game in a better state, but
It is, but you
so
could have
late
done
for
this
that.
so much sooner, and it could have fixed a lot of issues with this game that I think people had, but
Absolutely.
nothing we can do about it.
That's true.
Just enjoy it while we can.
Yep, until the servers permanently go down. But after, when September rolls around, that's when they're officially cutting support, which means it won't be buyable in stores, so you'll have to find a physical copy. You won't be able to download digital from digital stores. You'll still be able to play. They said they don't know how long they're going to keep the servers up, but they'll try to do it as long as possible. And I figure as long as there's a decent amount of people playing, it'll probably be up for, I don't know, 5-10 years at tops. I mean, that's pretty optimistic.
That's optimistic.
Yeah. So that's as good as we can get there. So that's going to be it for this episode of the Shackcast, guys. Say your goodbyes and let people know where you can be found online and elsewhere.
Go ahead, Chris.
Usually when Sim's streaming, I'm usually playing something with him or just hanging out with him. So wherever Sim's around, I'm not too far behind.
There you go.
And you can find me on Twitter at Symyro, on Instagram at the Symyro. Same here on YouTube, and you can find me over on Twitch at twitch.tv/Symyro. I'm pretty sure Aaron has at least my Twitch linked down below.
Got it. Well, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Take care, be safe, and we will catch you guys next Thursday. Take care.